All right. I don't want to cause a panic, but I'm wearing a blue T-shirt today instead of a black T-shirt, which I just realized kind of looks like a black T-shirt on the screen. So never mind. All right. So, Sissy, you're back. Thank you. Here we are, and we're gonna do a warrior woman today by request. Um, and I'm still a little gun shy about the whole "you're gonna get reported for nudity" thing. So I picked one with a button, a rear view. Um, this obviously this life drawing class. I did another sketch over here. Don't care too much about it, but this one I liked. I don't know how well you can see these. There's some lines here where the model had originally put her arm behind her back like that, and I sketched that originally, and I just didn't like it, so I changed it later on. And so we're going to change things a lot. I'm going to go ahead and lay down some tone because I like having a mid-tone. This particular piece of paper is not newsprint, something else. I don't know what was happening that day. I had a different piece of paper. So smudge that out. And yeah, you can see it over there better than I can see it over here, and that's fine. And so, okay. I do not, per se, have a photograph of this one, or at any rate, I couldn't find it. Got a few photographs of people standing there looking the other direction, doing something else with their arms. Hopefully, I can just kind of fake it. The light is more or less coming down from the top. And so I'm going to pull those highlights out. This paper is apparently a little more resistant to being erased on. There's something I didn't know, but that's okay. I'll just get a little aggressive here. I'd have been a bit more reserved about my toning the paper if I'd known that, but it's not a bad thing. All right, there's somewhere to start. Usually, when I get to the point where I've got a nude figure and I think I'm going to put a costume on her of some sort. Oh wait, oh my gosh, I've got text. Hope you're doing well. Usborne book party. So impressed with your books. Who is this? Who's talking to me? Who's talking? Oh, I, I've got a private message box that just popped up and completely covered my uh, messages box over here on the video. So I thought all of this was being said. Yeah, Valerie's here, and she said that's an old message. Okay, thank you. I was confused. Um, What are you reading? Nobody said anything. Right. Okay. Okay, there we go. So back to our originally scheduled program. I when I come to a point where I want to put a costume on the model, howdy Tom. Usually the first thing that I do is either the boot or the belt. And if she's a warrior woman, if I'm assuming that I want to give her weapons and armor and that kind of an outfit, it's going to start with a belt, okay? Because that's going to fit pretty snugly around your waist, no matter what else you're wearing. So I'm just going to give her come about here, uh, belt around the middle. I'm going to go a little higher since her hips are nice and flaring out to the sides. The belt would sit a little higher. Then I've got a couple pictures over here. I'm going to consult the picture. Here's a girl wearing a really wide, almost like a weightlifting kind of a belt. I kind of like that. Almost like one of those wrestler types of belts. And I believe she's got like a breastplate on. Might already just go ahead and do that. But that gets things started. Things are already starting to pull together. The belt's coming over the hip and down like that. And then I usually decide where I want the sword to go before I draw any of the straps that the sword will be dangling under. Okay, I'll get back and read those messages, but I was confused. Okay, so yeah, she needs a sword. She needs a scabbard. The scabbard could just they can go on various ways. It could just drop straight down like that. It could go sideways with a couple of straps making it go like that. It could go at an angle. I mean, it's physically possible to do them a variety of different ways, or even a sword across the back that she can draw in an overhand draw. Somebody's posted something. It looks like Bert and Ernie. Um, Staring at. Okay, I get you. So the sword could go on either way, and I don't have any particular preference given that I don't know who this person is or anything about. We haven't decided what her personality is or what her weapon style is or anything like that. So usually where I'm coming from at this point is I'm going to say what kind of a line is the most attractive. Given the way she's standing and stuff like that, I actually kind of liked that horizontal line more than anything, but maybe a little bit diagonal. I just like the energy of that more than the other ones, and I have no compelling reason to make any other decision. So I think I'm going to go with that. I'm also just going to go ahead and pick one and run with it because I'm on camera. And so another thing, I'm going to have another strap coming down. So the sword is held in two different places here. And that's fairly standard for a sword that's worn sideways like that. You would strap it on completely different if it was hanging straight down and I don't know what kind of sword we're talking about yet. I'm just kind of vaguely indicating that. and probably got some kind of boots on, I would assume. See, that came under the calf, but this toe is raised and the leg is bent back a little bit. So, assuming this is fairly level, you want that curve to go that way. So this curve goes this way, this curve goes that way, indicating that you're kind of looking down at the boot here and kind of looking away at the boot over here, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't, it's still true. Um, and so now, what else has she got? So, I'm not above just drawing a warrior woman that's running around just like that, stark ass naked with a sword belt and a sword and a pair of boots, because the girl needs practical shoes. And what else we got? Sharon's here with googly eyes. And Sharon, there is probably nothing in the world that is more dickish than when somebody tells you that someone just died and they go, "Oh yeah, I know somebody who died too." Like I did yesterday. I apologize for that. That was really, I thought about it later and I was just kind of like, who is he? Who is this guy? That was on the top of my brain. That's my excuse. I mean, it was right there. I was probably going to talk about it anyway. Um, but I didn't mean to do that. I was just, you know. But you've known me a long time. I think you know that I'm kind of a dick. Um, so no excuses, just apologies, and there I am. So here we go. I do a lot of that, big circular, uh, metal plate in there and metal studs. I like that sort of thing. I possibly do it too much, or maybe it's my style. I don't know. I do it a lot. Um, but of course, you're not married to it once you're using this soft charcoal and it just wipes right out again. So, just kind of, we're just designing here, and we can do different things. Um, One or two that are very skimpy and some that are full suits of armor. And we're going to do something kind of halfway in between. And so she's got a breastplate. It comes down, joins with this huge belt. You really can't tell what's going on the front. You just have to assume that there's something going on there. And where else can we pick up some ideas? Like this one. Wish I knew where it came from because it's really cool. I think sometimes these cosplayers they're so good and they go out into they go out in the woods or something with a good professional photographer and they take photos and you're just like, that's gotta be from a movie. And I don't know, she might just be in the SCA or something, but pretty cool costume. Okay, so I often want a costume, an armor thing to have like shoulder plates. Probably the thing that makes me want that the most is I used to be in the SCA and I was terrible at blocking and I got hit there a number of times and ouch. Fortunately, I had some fairly solid shoulder plates there, but that would be really bad. However, I really like her shoulder. I've drawn her, and I'm really kind of reluctant to cover too much up. Um, so, when I set out to do this kind of thing originally, it was just like, oh, okay, I've got these really cool new drawings, and they're very nice, but what do you do with it? You got to do something with it, or, you don't have to do something. You can just leave it alone, but I want to do something with it. And so, but I also did not really want to just dress them completely up, just completely cover them up. So that's why they just wound up kind of skimpy clothing. So I'm going to give her half armor, half uh, some kind of armored stuff down one shoulder, partly down one arm. Somebody wants to give me grief and go, nobody would ever wear that. Yeah, go have a look at some old Greek and Roman statues and mosaics and paintings and stuff, and you'll see that apparently hundreds of thousands of people wore exactly that kind of thing at some point in history. So, yeah, they would. And if it was really expensive and you couldn't afford more armor than that, that's how you'd dress too. Or if you were only half dressed in the morning and the orcs showed up, you might have to run outside and have a fight dressed like you are. Somewhere down on the end of this strap, we're going to have some hardware like buckles and things that fit around this sword scabbard. We're going to need a ruler so that we draw straight lines. Her lines are starting to disappear with all the smudging and smearing, is like I knock a little bit of charcoal off each pass of my hand. Got to go back and reinforce things every now and then. I'll change my mind about swords a lot. It's like the design. I'll draw something, then go, oh, that's stupid looking. Go back and change that. This little decorative doodah down on the end of the scabbard has a name. I've forgotten what it is. It also has a function. Swords, if they're any good, they're sharp on the end, and you slap them in the scabbard, and they eventually poke a hole in the end of the scabbard. And when you're walking around in polite company, you're stabbing people, in the marketplace or something. I hate getting stabbed in the marketplace. So, yeah, I don't worry about things too much, um, except when I'm awake. I I take criticism. It's not that I don't take criticism badly. I mean, if you told me That seems a little anatomically off, or she seems a little overbalanced, in this direction, which she does. Or something like that, I could stand back and go, okay, I see that. Yeah, I think you're right, and I don't mind criticism, uh, but somehow, because I can accept screwing up. I mean, I do that. I'm good at screwing up. But somehow when somebody comes out and says, um, this is sexist towards women, or this is, it's racist somehow, or it's something like that. Yeah, that God bugs the crap out of me. That just I wanna I wanna throw away all my paper and my pencils, and you know shut off my internet connection, and delete my Facebook account, and go become a survivalist in the woods with my AK-47 and my attitude. Now I'm gonna wipe this all out again. See what parts I really reinforced and what parts I forgot to. Go here. I don't know if you spend a lot of time looking at fantasy art, um, but lately I've joined a whole bunch of fantasy art groups, fantasy and science fiction art groups, anatomy for fantasy and science fiction art. I've been on the Frank Frazetta Roundtable for some time, which is artists who consider themselves highly influenced by Frank Frazetta, which I certainly am. So as the ones that allow you to share their art are the ones that I'm joining there. So I'm joining all these groups, and I'm sharing artwork, and largely the reason I'm doing that is in the vain hope of not going insane during my quarantine. So it's giving me something to do and more people to talk to and stuff like that. But I joined a dozen groups in one day, and so I'm showing, where on my regular Facebook page I might show a picture that I'm really proud of and get uh, 12 to 20 replies, or likes, or a couple comments, um, which is all good. I never feel bad about that. I like that. But God, I've joined some groups and gotten like 650 responses in a day, you know, and that gives me, if I wanted something to occupy my time, by God, that occupied my time, to go through and just make sure, that I've answered anybody that said something in particular to me, or stuff like that. It was just a bunch. It was just an amazing bunch of stuff, and I had a point to make. Actually, it was a little more than just bragging on that. I think I may have possibly done a, a teeny tiny amount of good in the world by posting a bunch of this stuff to some of these groups, because if you've been looking at fantasy art in the last 20 years, um, if there's a picture of a girl, if there's a picture of a woman warrior, for example, she looks like a teenage girl blow up doll. Okay, she looks, her skin looks like it's made of plastic, her boobs are just like literally this large and look like they're about to explode and kill somebody. And 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 then she's wearing some, and she'll be wearing armor. Like I looked I looked at one the other day, and the girl, she was stepping forward, okay, one leg in front of the other, and one leg had armor on it, the other leg didn't. Okay, that's fine. There's actually historical precedent for that. But the armor that was on this one leg was literally like 24 inches around and had spikes everywhere. Like, even towards your inner thigh. And so, like, it's physically impossible to take a step wearing this thing because you couldn't, you couldn't get your one leg past your other leg. And then there's, like shoulder things with spikes on them, so if she went like that, she'd like put a spike through her head. And uh and stuff like that. And it's like, I draw some crazy stuff, but that stuff bugs me. And uh and also, the anatomy is beyond ridiculous, and I want to say something nice because, my God, this person did an excellent job. I mean, it's a really, really convincing, horrifying looking blow up, sex doll warrior girl. I mean, it looks, it looks kind of real. Only it's just impossible. And there's so much of it. I mean, I don't mean there's a lot of it. I mean, like, 80 to 90% of it is like that. And the male warriors are no better. They've got like arm muscles that are this big around. Okay, well, all right. There's some really muscular guys out there, but your skeleton is more or less the same no matter who you are. I mean, there's some guys at my gym. Their skeleton's definitely bigger than me because their whole body's bigger. But if your arm's that big, you can't put your arms down to your sides. It would be physically impossible. Where's it going to go? I mean, your side has to go, or your lung has to cave in, or something. And so here's this guy, and he's wearing this armor, and the armor is that thick. It's literally that thick, so you can see it going around like this, and his arms are hanging straight down to his sides. Well, you can't do that. I mean, and it's no good to go, well, it's fantasy art. It's like, no, the armor's that thick. Where would his arm go? His arm would just stick straight out to his side, and he could never move it. He couldn't do anything, and that just kills me. And it's otherwise so exquisitely done. It's just amazing how, the level of detail, um, and sometimes, like, every rivet on this guy's suit of armor uh, is not only, very well uh, painted, but um, like, if you could zoom in, if you downloaded the thing on your computer and you could zoom in, he's got like his coat of arms, stamped into every rivet, and there's 20,000 rivets on the painting. It's just unbelievable, and it's actually kind of bad. And so anyhow, I've been doing artwork that looks more like this. Well, I haven't been doing, it's all old. I'm just sharing stuff that's old, and but I've been sharing stuff that looks like this, and I'm seeing this outpouring of appreciation from people going, "Oh my God, it's so good to see somebody that looks realistic. It's so good to see somebody with realistic proportions and realistic armor and weapons." Oh, I didn't even go into the weapons, but I mean, people are wearing weapons that, they're holding onto this sword and the blade literally would go from here to next door. I mean, like the blade looks like it's 20, 30 feet long, and and that's what people are drawing, and uh, I hate it. Um, it's I go in and I want to say something nice to all these artists, and I hate their work. I just hate it, and so I don't know. Possibly, just possibly, I've done my bit to nudge the pendulum in the other direction. And somebody said something. Tolkien wrote a whole essay about how important it is for fantasy worlds to have real and believable elements. I totally agree to that. And in fact, I something I say from time to time is that if you're everybody in your fantasy world is a giant, then there's no such thing as giants in your fantasy world, right? Because that's just what ordinary people look like. So they're all just ordinary people. And, if everybody rides a dragon and has a magic suit of armor and a magic sword and a magic helmet and a magic teacup and a magic roll of toilet paper and a magic, okay, then there's no such thing as magic, because that's just ordinary stuff. That's just crap that you use every day, and there is no magic in your world. And so, when everybody's wearing this massive armor and they're all massively strong and they've got huge tits and they, then, everybody's nothing special. They're just ordinary looking, weird, but ordinary looking people in your little world. And so I think the thing that makes uh, something fantastic is that you juxtapose it against stuff that looks ordinary. So if there's a dragon, it helps a lot if there's sheep, or a wooden cart and things like that, things that make it so that the dragon is in context an amazing thing. By the way, can you hear me when I turn away and I talk? Because every day I forget to put my little earbud in my ear, and we've discovered just your pet peeve. Yes, yes, you have discovered one of them. I have more. Yeah, I've got more, but that's a whole package. That's a uh, yeah, swords that are way too big and armor that's way too big and muscles that just wouldn't physically work on a human being, because they were too big, and other body parts that just are impossible. Uh, and then my other pet peeve is having held my tongue, seeing all these things. I go to all these sites, and I just am trying to be nice and say, "Wow, that's very detailed," or say something polite, and then people jump on me and they go, "She wouldn't go out dressed like that." That's not practical. Or you draw the sword over the back and somebody goes, "She cut her head off drawing that sword." No, she wouldn't. Stellar used to wear a sword like that, and she drew the sword numerous times. It's like, what would make you think that I would make this costume and make this scabbard and go out and run around, and like I would never occur to me to try to draw the sword and see if that works. Of course we you know the whole thing was designed around being able to draw that sword and make it work. So, but people walk up to us and they go, "That won't work. You couldn't draw that sword. It's impossible." And it was a dickish thing to do at a convention or something, because you're not allowed to draw the sword and show them that they're wrong. So you just have to stand there and get told that you're an idiot. But if you prove that I can in fact draw the sword, you get thrown out of the convention. So, um, Yeah, that was a thing. I can hear you fine even when you turn around. I don't know why that is. Okay, um, the first few videos I did, I set up my tripod and I used my cell phone, and the rest of them I've done from my computer. And I've got the computer awfully close. I really have almost no elbow room here, and I'm um, it looks better on screen than it is in real life, but I'm actually off to the side of my paper, so I'm drawing uh, from the side. Um, so anyway, I'm probably much closer to my microphone, or it's a better microphone, or it's not relying on the phone service, or I don't know. I guess it's better because of that. I was remembering though that when I was using my phone, if I turned away, people couldn't hear me, so I was worried about that. That's good to know. Maybe it's not a disaster when I don't use the little earbud thing. I've got books about costuming. I've got books about the weapons and uniforms of the Civil War and the Revolutionary War and medieval weapons and armor. And sometimes I'll study those things. In particular, I will study how swords, uh, how they harness on, how they strap to the belt and everything. That kind of thing is hard to find out because sometimes you'll see the picture of the guy in the uniform, like an old painting, and it's not real obvious how that sword is hanging there. It's just kind of over there, and and then you'll see a photo of a sword, like on a table or something. Uh, but just, how did that work? How did that hang and everything? That's sometimes some mystifying stuff to try to find that out. But there were things like that. The belt's kind of following the curve of her hip and butt. Otherwise, it would just come straight down. And more metal studs. When you're in doubt drawing fantasy art, start putting metal studs on things. Or if you're in the SCA, do that too. You're making your costume. I don't really like that. Just just cover it again. Just rub it out. Alan Clark, hey, haven't seen you in a while. Quite a while. How are things in Eugene, Oregon, right? Unless you moved and I haven't been paying attention. You must have heard me thinking about you this morning because I was. I was looking through some I don't know, some freaky ass page that I was looking at, and somebody had a bunch of skulls on the shelf behind them, and I was remembering your story about your grandpa's skull uh, up on the shelf. I wanted to kind of tell that story, but I didn't think I could get it right. I guess I have to tell it at this point. Uh, Alan's grandpa he was a doctor or a anatomy and physiology instructor at the college, or I don't know, something. But he had a bunch of old bones, and Alan had a skull that grandpa had found um, up on the shelf. And when people came over, he would say, "Yeah, that's my granddad's skull," which was true because it belonged to granddad. But it freaked people out. Anyways, I love that story. Alan tells it much better because I synopsized it. Well, I'm kind of liking it costume wise. It has all the things I like. A pretty girl who's not wearing a whole lot of clothes, but she's got some. There's things popping up on my screen. She's got some weapons and armor, and she looks reasonably capable, and still kind of girly. And I like that. There was another sketch over here, and then I came over here and drew the thing because I was just practicing. Of course, if I was laying this picture out on the paper, with her looking that way, I would have drawn this whole figure over here. Um, if I was doing this intentionally as something to set up for an illustration or whatever, and that way I could have something interesting over here, and I would have a few inches more room on the paper to do it, and I kind of have run out of space. So I would really love to include a monster or something, and and I don't have any ideas right at the moment, but I might come back to that on another date. And we've gone over 43 minutes, so that means we're done, unless somebody wants to throw out a request. I don't know. So usually I'm doing these for 30 minutes, and that's about all the steam I got in me. And so I think I'll stop there. And tomorrow we'll do something. Tomorrow's Saturday. You guys going to come back on Saturday? Is that a better day or a worser day to be doing this at all? I really don't know. Plus, Stellar's going to have me driving around to do shopping trips. So I don't know. I may or may not be around at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You may have to wait for me to do some random announcement in the middle of the day. But I'll try to do something interesting on Saturday. And then, okay, that's it. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for coming.